Nah, let's just get to it. I don't want to again spend 37 minutes with change to talk about another troubled 2013 game. There is not enough meat on Ryse's bones. So I played Ryse, Son of Rome, the gentleman's way, on my Xbox One. And I was a little bit surprised. This is a big quadruple A system seller kinda game that was supposed to convince you to buy a VCR in 2013. It's a linear, short experience, and yet there are missed spots. Broken animations are a fairly regular sight. I had a UI element stuck in the middle of my screen for a while, a broken point marker, and one of the things that instantly rises a brow in the tutorial fight, the army of clone barbarians. Ryse quickly makes up for that misstep with its technical edge. Say what you will about those tech showcase games, but it hasn't aged much. Still looks stunning, a decade-old game on a decade-old hardware. Bump it up to 60 FPS, render it in 4K, tell me it released this week and I'll buy it, no questions asked. Crazy stuff. Still, Crytek decided to dedicate third of the screen to the Marius zone, making any attempts at showing the pretty environment rather tricky. As I'd assume you already noticed, game takes place in the ancient Rome, and I love it for that. There are hardly any games in the Roman Empire outside of the nerdy strategy stuff. There is this walking and talking game, and Gladiator Begins on the PSP. Yeah, Ryse might be the biggest action game set in Rome we ever got. And this claim alone will probably be enough to keep it in the collective gaming hive mind for long ass time. Crytek's interpretation takes a lot of liberties with its source material. What you get here is a super tuned up trust me bro version of Rome. Imperial armor looks more like bionicle parts rather than anything present at the time. I thought ships with eyes were a Egyptian thing. A centurion with British accent calling his soldiers lads.
Come on, lads! Let's take this fort!
Took me by surprise, I won't lie. There's also a full D-Day mission, like legit, with falling down shell-shocked soldier and all.
Our march north towards the rebel heartland was brutal. Progress was slowed by...
Oh, come on, just because you admit it, it doesn't make it any better. Don't get me wrong, my complaint is not that Ryse is not a documentary piece. It's that they don't go nearly far enough to have any fun with the setting. There is one level that allows itself to be bonkers with skull-faced barbarians, a strawman, ridiculous gore and all that, but that's just one level. Ryse could have easily reserved itself a place in my heart if it went crazy. Give me naval battles with Greek fire, heat rays and full auto scorpions. Give me barbarian ambushes with giants and ancient magic. It would not only lift the game up artistically, but also give Crytek safe space to flex their engine muscle. Instead of doing that, instead of creating cool set pieces that would show how capable CryEngine is on the new shiny Xbox, you get to witness the pretty CryEngine fire by walking slowly through a burning building and be amazed by physics by looking at falling logs. The fuck was that? Listen here, you little shit, I don't have no time nor nerves to deal with your crap today, so you better just... Oh. He already did. Oh, fuck. Not the corpses again. As for writing, your name is Marcus, you are a Roman centurion, there is treason, revenge, military men good, spoiled men in power bad, and Boudica enters Rome on an elephant. It is certain. It is one of the stories of all time. I like the performances. Actors did not have much to work with, but voice acting and motion capture is done really nicely and has the AAA sheen. I don't recognize any of the actors by face, but each has some previous experiences with video games and some more recognizable movies. Boudica, for instance, was in Mamma Mia. The more you know. As for the music, it's alright. Yeah. It's alright. Ryse is short and very linear, 6-hour stops, neatly divided into 8 chapters. I generally note how each game I play is structured, as I believe that game's structure is equally important as the gameplay itself. Ryse plays it straight, and I absolutely don't mind that at all. Speaking of gameplay, it's a beat 'em up, which is notable since I thought that all those died once this world was blessed with Devil May Cry. This genre line gets a bit blurry, especially if you speed the game up a notch. But my assumption is that if Die Hard Arcade and Zombie Revenge are 3D beat 'em ups, and the first DMC is the blueprint for hack and slash or character action games, if you are a zoomer, easily characterized by enemy juggling and ineffectiveness of spamming, then Ryse is a beat 'em up to the core. And the first major one since, the Red Star? Anyways, you enter the arena and you beat up all guys. You can do a basic attack, a heavy attack, which got literally no use since it takes a calendar to time it right, a parry, a shield bash, and a dodge. And that's it. Each attack can do damage only to a single enemy at the time. There is no area attack, no grapple, no combos, nothing. There are 4 types of enemies through the entire game. The normal kind of guy that can't even block, the fat guy with shield that, my oh my, needs to be parried or bashed to gain an opening, a 2-sword guy that attacks in a sequence of 3 and needs to be parried accordingly before you can damage him, and a big guy that can do heavy attacks that need to be dodged or parried with good timing. And this roster stays consistent till the end of the game. Those cool looking skull faces I mentioned earlier are just a paint job. It's all the same. When in combat, all those lovely gentlemen surround you and take their turn swinging. Every combat arena ends up being a monotonous cycle of parrying, getting a couple of hits in, parrying guy from behind, getting a couple of hits in, parrying, hitting, and you do it over and over and over for 6 hours and then it's done. And then you are free. Enemies always surround you in a nice little circle, and your options of positioning are severely limited. But even if they weren't, there is not much point since attacks only damage one guy at a time. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Shut up. There is another layer of combat mechanics. I like to call it Simon Says. When a barbarian is about to perform a heavy attack, he starts glowing red. That is a clue, you see. You can parry it with good enough timing, but it's much easier to perform a dodge. You do it with the B button on your controller, the red one. Similarly, once you deal enough damage, enemy becomes susceptible to a finishing move. Game indicates that by the way of him flashing either blue or yellow. I have heard that you are a smart guy. You can probably guess which button those flashing colors indicate. That's right, any or none. All but one button will result in Marius performing a bloody execution. Compliance with game's suggestions will result with a higher score, about which we both care very much about, don't we? Those finishers are pretty great, but what do you gain from performing them? It's up to you. They can either boost your HP, XP, damage output, or slow-mo focus mode thing. No matter your choice, all it affects is result of the execution, which is not only a tautological statement, but also a gigantic fucking missed opportunity for something. I don't know, this could have also changed the weapon, giving each a unique perk and trade-off, or instead of being a button press, make it an active choice, like in Doom Eternal, where what you get out of a kill depends on how you go about it. My point is that aside of parry and attack, there is very little to do in Ryse's arenas, and any sort of depth would be appreciated, thank you very much. Skibbity bop, focus mode thing. If you have your focus mode thing meter charged, you can enter the focus mode thing, where everything goes slow-mo except for you. You become super speedy and your attacks are unblockable for a brief time. Now, you might be wondering, do focus mode thing kills benefit from chosen perk? Yes, they do. You might be wondering still, what stops me? Or what stops you from charging focus mode thing while in focus mode thing? The answer is not much. If the arena is busy enough, you can chain slow-mo kills for as long as you want. Balance is the word of the day, y'all. Okay, so what is the reason for all this? Why would you continue to cause pain, take lives, spill blood, hack and slash? General consensus of the market is to stack some RPG mechanics in, and Ryse tries to do that poorly. All you can do is to upgrade your abilities by an arbitrary numerical amount, with no options for any sort of specialized build, and unlock new finishers, which sounds neat, but just like the upgrades have zero effect on your approach. Only thing they help with is the monotony of looking at the same finisher animations over and over again. Wait, buddy, give me a second. Purchase with Valor or purchase with gold?
What the hell is even that?
Valor, just like in real life, is the quality you earn in combat, while gold, just like in real life, usually costs you some hard-earned cash. I say usually because you used to be able to buy some gold on the Xbox store for all your basic game progression needs. It seems that at some point either Microsoft or Crytek decided to cut this feature, and instead of removing the system completely and keeping the upgrades experience-based, as it should have been from the start, they just made the gold free on the store, making the pointless and lazy progression system broken. Great fucking job. Ryse started conceptual stage of development all the way back in 2006. Crytek was shooting for the stars, aiming for revolution in RPG mechanics and graphics, obviously. Eventually, a deal with Microsoft was struck. Do all that cool stuff, but make it for Xbox 360 and Kinect. I mean, yeah, sounds great on paper. Kinect, through all its life, struggled with library not really aligning with what you would call a Xbox core audience. Till Kinect's bitter end, it struggled with anything mature-oriented. Ryse was revealed to the greater public in 2011 as 360 Kinect exclusive in first-person view. The game was worked on for years to fit those criteria, and just 2 years later it was launched on Xbox One, a platform with completely different architecture, in different perspective, using totally different control scheme. I honestly think that there was an ambition to make this game revolutionary in its overarching mechanics, but before Crytek could start messing around with that, they needed to fit CryEngine-shaped block into 360-shaped hole, and you know, the whole your body is the controller thing, right? I am pulling this out of my ass a bit, but it looks like the Kinect control straight up did not work, and the process of wrapping head around this mess caused project to be moved on to the next gen. The Big M rarely made sensible decisions at the time, but cutting their losses, getting rid of Kinect, and settling for a game that is pretty seems like the best thing that could be done. Making things pretty is the one thing Crytek can be trusted with without a shadow of a doubt. Now, picture this. It's 2013. You are walking through your local mall and you see it. Your heart stops. Your legs weaken. it's an Xbox One kiosk. You approach it, you grab the controller, and the most stunning game you have ever seen starts blazing your gamer eyes. You start mashing buttons, and Centurion on the screen begins a frantic bloodbath. He slashes, stabs, and then the time slows, and you get to see one poor soul escape its digital body in a particularly brutal fashion. And now, you know, your teenage brain understands that you need to buy that black box. And that is what Microsoft settled on. After years of unfruitful development, when they were certain that this wouldn't be a revolutionary title, they settled on a game that makes an amazing impression when you see it. It's a game meant only for kiosks. And playing it outside of that context is a bit of waste of time. I have played a good deal of Crytek's games. Their titles leverage not on gameplay design choices, but on technological advances of the CryEngine. Games are built around them to fit. No one would talk about Far Cry back then if it wasn't for the mind-blowing open areas and foliage rendering tech. The entire game is tailor-made to fit around that. And no one would talk about Far Cry right now if Ubisoft did not once upon a time have a soul. Same goes for Crysis. Foliage and graphics like never before. Underneath all that, there is a okay game at best. Ryse had the misfortune of having to be a graphical powerhouse on limited console hardware and designed around alternative controller tech that Crytek did not understand the limitations of. Once it was dropped, the interaction limitations dictated by controls disappeared. And all we have left is a really pretty game that plays like shit. I have no ways with words. Summing up what I think of Ryse, Son of Rome, has to be done by someone much more eloquent. So for that, I will equip the brightest poet my people ever had. Adam Mickiewicz once said, "It is like a beautiful church without a god," when describing other men's poems. But today it's about a video game, and that's what I think of it. Take care.